So the year is 2025, and the United States is now pretty much putting the First Amendment up for debate, something that we all kind of took for granted and thought was a given. Evidently, it's not. Um, and Charlie Kirk is put up on a pedestal as a First Amendment advocate, but at the same time, uh, a comedian and late night talk show host, Jimmy Kimmel, who is far more popular. I mean, he's someone who I was a lot more familiar with, uh, lost his show for a statement that he made involving the Charlie Kirk situation. I don't really know what was said, but um, he's being taken off of that show. And I believe Stephen Colbert was as well. And I know Stephen Colbert went in on Trump for a long time. So, usually when people think of the First Amendment, they think about free speech. But beyond that, I feel like freedom of the press gets forgotten about quite a bit. And Donald Trump is trying to compromise that as well. Actually, he already has, because he kind of picks and chooses who has White House press privileges. And that is not a good thing at all, because the men who wrote the founding documents of the United States, they knew that freedom of the press was very, very important, because the citizens that vote, which was limited at that time, needed to be informed. And PBS has already been defunded. In my personal opinion, PBS had the best journalism. They did a very, very good job with that. There were journalists who were on PBS for years, years and years, decades, and I have no idea what their personal opinions are on anything. One of them I know is deceased now, Gwen Eiffel. There was another one named Jim Lehrer. See, I don't even know if Jim Lehrer is still alive or not, but they never spoke about their personal lives or personal opinions. I know nothing about the people. However, they were just familiar faces for years that discussed the news. I do not know that I even saw them smile, because they didn't present themselves in that way. The way that a lot of local news anchors are now. They're very, and I don't feel like that's their job and that's what they should be doing. But anyway, that's a little bit of a different issue. But it's unfortunate that the United States it's almost like we're getting back to maybe not square one, but he did say he wanted to make America great again. My question was always, what era are you referring to? And it's probably somewhere around like 1820 or something, which doesn't fare well for someone such as myself. But anyway, there is that. Meanwhile, in uh, other news, such as like global news, a lot of really interesting things are going on. Israel is advancing on Gaza. Gaza is being evacuated, and some countries in the European Union are considering imposing sanctions on Israel, and some countries are considering in Europe are considering recognizing Palestine as a country, and there is a big UN meeting coming up in New York. So, I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, but Americans were back at square one wanting to debate the First Amendment. So, it's kind of unfortunate. Okay, now I want to talk about Mississippi and the gaslighting that's going on there. No matter how you look at it, this is gaslighting. First of all, the one young man was found, well, don't quote me on that, but it's said that he was hanging. I didn't want to say he was, well, I guess he had to have been found hanged. I mean, it's not like Yeah. So anyway, a young man died from a hanging from a college in on a college campus in Mississippi. It's called Delta State University. And anyway, they were very quick to name it a suicide. Very quick. However, I mean, he was hanging in the middle of a college campus, and it's just strange to me that there's no surveillance footage that the media is discussing. No one saw him. There's just like a lot of blind spots here and a lot of question marks. So it's very strange. And it's like, how do you just go ahead and just name something a suicide like that? And the president of the university says that this is not a racial issue. This is not a racial issue. And this is why I'm saying that this is gaslighting, because it's like, this is Mississippi. Like, everyone has a reason to have their mind go there when we're talking about Mississippi. And he's like, oh, I have no idea why anyone would say that, because you're a small town in Mississippi. And this was a young black man. And another thing that I feel like we're being gaslit about now, this one man said, the president of Delta State University said, oh, this is not a racial issue. But I've seen a few pictures of this young man now. And in my opinion, in the still photographs, he looks a little bit just kind of like feminine. So even if it's not a racial issue, which I mean, I don't really see how you could separate race from, almost anything going on in Mississippi, probably. But if it's not race, I mean, it could be, a sexual preference. Now, I do not know this boy, and I've only seen still pictures. But to me, I don't know. It almost reminds me of like Matthew Shepard 2025. So there is that. And again, gaslighting. The school said that they got in touch with his next of kin. The family says they didn't get in touch with them, but the school said that they got in touch with the emergency contact. So it looks like there may have been some sort of estrangement there. So, who knows? But the family is speaking up for him. They got a lawyer, they have Ben Crump. Um, and, who knows? Who knows what's really going on? But I'm glad that they are pushing for answers. And here's the other thing, even if somehow it is found out that it is a suicide, talking about the boy in Mississippi, like if they find a note or something like that, there was still another man 100 miles away who also was found in a tree. And they're saying that he was hanged. Now, this dude was a white guy and he was homeless, but think about all the hostility that homeless people are facing right now. So there's, on one hand, we have the homeless white man. Um, on the other hand, we have this black boy who's going to college, and his college is not an HBCU. And to me, in the still pictures, he seems like he might be a little bit effeminate. And now the spokespeople for Delta State, they are saying, well, there were no injuries to his body, talking about the student in Mississippi. And they're saying, okay, so that does not coincide with an attack. But to me, it would kind of coincide with um, perhaps him spending time with people who he thought were friends, and obviously they may not have been. And it could also be, someone luring him from one place to another, because he was found near a pickleball court, like in the center of campus. And so I think about it and I was like, okay, that's a place that if you go to that school, that would probably be a meeting spot, because like everyone knows it. So there's that. And there's another situation in California where a man was luring people on dating apps, and this was a gay man, and he was, and You hear a lot about people being lured on dating apps. And honestly, and this is, I haven't done any work as far as, percentages and stats and stuff, but this is just me just watching a lot of news. Grinder is one of the worst. Grinder is by far one of the worst, as far as being robbed or killed after meeting up with someone who you met for a date. So, and this is just me talking. I know nothing. I'm not even going to like all these conspiracy theories. This is just me talking. But I'm just pointing out that in Mississippi, like this is just like it's gaslighting, like no matter what. Because first the president of the university is like, oh geez, I don't know why anyone would think this is a race issue. Like, dude, you're in Mississippi, number one, and number two, somebody else committed suicide the exact same day in a similar fashion, and the other one was next to a casino. The homeless man was found next to a casino, which again would be a location that everyone knows. I've heard of that place, and I've never even been to Mississippi. I've heard of that city, but like everybody would, it's Vicksburg, Mississippi. It's a place that everybody would know. So if you were trying to link up with somebody for whatever, it's probably someplace where you would meet up. But it's just like really like two suicides in one day in the same state, the same way. And they're just, even if it is a suicide, it's still weird. And it's something that needs to be addressed, which the governor of Mississippi has not addressed. His name, I believe, is Tate Reeves, and he's been very vocal in the past about various topics, but about this he's quiet so far. So that is very interesting, and I just kind of eagerly await more details, because even if it is found out that they both did take their own lives, that's still something that needs to be discussed and sorted out, because it's still like, man, like what the heck's going on in Mississippi? Like that's quite a coincidence there. But I personally, I've thought for a long time that oftentimes a mysterious death is just kind of like labeled a suicide. Um, and let's talk about like homeless people. Like, as far as people who would have the most reason to be in despair, it would probably be someone who like slept outside. But I feel like you don't, I mean, again, this would be very hard to track, but it's just like, do you hear about homeless people taking themselves out very often? I mean, I don't feel like I do. I mean, again, that would be hard to track, quantify, but they seem like a hardy bunch. Let me just put that way. So, yeah, there is that. So I certainly hope that there is some resolution found, because it's quite the weird and creepy mystery. And I do feel like they just kind of like wrote it all off as suicide just too quickly, which happens a lot. For some weird reason, on YouTube, I have followed YouTubers who are truck drivers. And so I've heard about truck drivers, particularly black truck drivers, um, hanging, and it was called a suicide. And I'm just like, how did they come to that conclusion that quick? Um, so I don't know. I don't know. It's very mysterious. And I do feel like the officials, at least that one in Mississippi, he is gaslighting a little bit, and we'll see what the governor of Mississippi has to say. So, moving on to the state of Missouri, the governor here, his name is Mike Kehoe. He says that Charlie Kirk is a hero because he got people with differing opinions to talk to each other. That seems to be like the pretty common reasoning for saying that he's a hero, one of them. Um, but Mike Kehoe, he completely disregards entire elections. He disregards entire votes. There are several issues here in Missouri that were voted on, and Mike Kehoe and the politicians on the state level here in Missouri just kind of up and decided to just overturn them. And it's happened like recently over the past year, but it's happened like before that, like maybe 5 or 10 years ago. They just like challenge votes, not even like the leadership of elected official. I mean, just votes on the ballot. So he's like, oh yeah, people need to come together and talk for what? For what? Um, I don't know. I think a lot of the times certain conversations can be just like spinning your wheels and just exhausting yourself and wasting your resources. So that can be the case there. And when someone kind of shows you that they are not really interested in listening, they don't really respect you as an individual, they're not really looking for any sort of a peaceful resolution that would benefit everyone involved, it's probably time to stop talking. So, yeah, there is all of that. Um, I just want to encourage everyone to just like really stay engaged. I mean, if you're in the US, stay engaged and look beyond what's going on in America and look at what's going on in the rest of the world because we're kind of stuck on stupid over here and we're trying to um, push everything back instead of moving everything forward. But the rest of the world is moving forward. So, you know, yeah, I think it's important to continue to pay attention to all of that and look at the big picture. I also want to say that considering everything that's going on in the Middle East, as far as Israel advancing on Gaza, all these people that thought that Kamala Harris was not a good candidate because of the Biden Harris's, or let me just say the Biden administration's view on Israel Palestinian relations wasn't pro Palestinian enough. They've gotten very quiet, haven't they? They've gotten very, very, very quiet. Over there in Palestine right now, the communications have been cut now. They've lost communications and like cell phone service um, in some areas, and Israel again is advancing and evacuating them. And Israel has some new technology, like the Iron Beam, I think they call it. So I mean, they stepped it up. I mean, are you what you want and say, yeah, well, with American tax dollars, whatever, they did it. They got it done. They advanced their technology, and I guess it's just like a air defense system. So anyway, there is all of that. And anyway, I just want to talk about all of that sort of stuff. So anyway, have a wonderful day, and we'll just all keep on keeping on. Bye now.